What's up, everybody? Just getting set up here. All right, let's check all the settings. Let's see. All right, checking the volumes. All right, how's everybody doing today? Just checking my feed here. Hey, Eagle Nord, how you doing? Yeah, what are we going to learn? So we're going to do some SwiftUI stuff here. Let me just restart the preview here, and we'll get into a little explanation for those of you who may not have seen this before. For those of you that have seen this app before, you're going to know what it is, and we're just going to be polishing it up a little here. How you doing, Eagle Nord? How's your weekend been? All right, let me find my content view. There it is. Okay. All right, so what have we got here, folks? So what we got here is an application that I built for myself, or I'm building for myself, mostly built at this point. And the idea was that I realized, hey, you know what? This is probably going to help other people too. So I started to polish it up, clean it up, make it more user-friendly for other people, and I'll explain the app in a second here. My weekend has gone good, thank you. I'm glad you had a good one. I got a lot done this weekend. I've got some podcast recordings done. I'm got this stream, working on this app here a little bit. Installed the latest beta versions of Monterey, and updated on my iPad the latest beta 15 and all those kind of fun things. I think I'm ready for the week now. So the Sunday night streams is my way of just chilling before Monday morning comes around and having some fun with some app development stuff here. So I think I'm ready for Monday. All right, so what is this app? So this app is basically, I'll run it in the simulator here for you. It is a way for me to record. Let me show you here. Where is it? One of my favorite cameras. This camera right here, my FujiFilm X-T4, and what it allows me to do, one of the things that I love about it is, because I'm an avid photographer, was a pro for many years, but it has all the manual controls on top that you might see, and I can also simulate some films. So the problem is that you can only have 7 stored presets on the camera. And so what I wanted to do was have a way to store a catalog of different presets, but be able to access them on the move. So that's what this app is. I'm going to run it here and I'll show you what I mean. All right, let's hide that. Clean up the desktop here so you can see it a bit better. All right, let's wait for this to run. Please compile. I didn't check it beforehand, so I'm hoping it's working. Oh, come on. You know what? While we're waiting for this, it actually rained here. I'm in Texas, for those of you who don't know. And it's been rained here the last couple of days. In August, in the middle of summer. It is so weird. So it's a little cooler, and a little cooler in my studio here. So I call my office my studio. It actually is my home office, but okay, come on, load up. Make sure it is still loading, right? Loading and running. Come on. There we go. Okay. All right, so what it is, let me just clear all these out. We'll go back to the beginning here. So it's basically at the core of it, it's what we would call a CRUD application, right? You create records, you edit records, and you delete them, basically. So I'm going to add a new preset, right? I click plus here, and these are all the settings for what it calls a film simulation. I won't go into the details too much on them, but basically I can give it a name, right? So I think actually I got to do this with the on-screen keyboard. Hold on. Keyboard. Let's connect my new preset. And then this is a cool image. All right. Emphasis on a little cooler. Yeah, little. Just like, well, actually, so what it is, instead of being like, I don't know, 102, something like that, normally it's about 90. So it's noticeable. But yeah, cooler, not cool. All right, so you put the name, you put the description, and you go through, and basically I set in here the settings that I set on the camera, right? And then when I'm done, I hit save, and I've got my preset. You'll notice I've got a bug here that I introduced earlier today, right? So let me just show you here. I got to fix this bug in this stream. Right, so I just update it here. Okay, so there you go. So when you've got a list of them, you can just click on one. It's going to give you all the settings. You put those in the camera. Boom, I've got my film simulation, right? So that's what this does. And then, of course, you can edit them as you just saw me do here, right? We can go back and do something crazy like this and then hit update, and they're all updated, okay? So that's what this app does. And then there's some options to export the presets and things like that. So, you can, of course, swipe and delete them. Like I say, I've got a bug here that I introduced earlier today as I was working around. It wasn't intentional. I'd love to say it was intentional so that we can fix it together. It wasn't. We're just going to fix it together. So that's what this app does, right? So as I was going through, you'll notice there's this button here. Let me get rid of this. This OMG is a temporary development button. When I click this, it actually resets the first run. So you get the welcome screens. Let me show you what I mean by that. All right, see if I can do this here. Let's close out. Okay, there we go. So I'm going to run the app. These are the welcome screens you get the first time round. I've still got to do the screen images. I actually took the screen caps earlier today. Haven't had a chance to put them in yet. But you swipe through, some onboarding screens. And then when you're done, you're going to hit start. It's gone. It's not going to come back again unless you reset it. So this is my temporary OMG development button, right? Because who doesn't need an OMG button? Other than that, you hit the plus. I think you get the idea, right? Any questions? Ask them in the chat. I will be happy to try and answer them. So this is all built out with SwiftUI. I'll go through these quickly. The screens, the onboarding screens I was working on a little bit earlier. If I just resume this here, you'll see they're very straightforward. They're just waiting for some images and some text. All right, here we go. And then you will see, these are all built out with SwiftUI, right? That's the idea here. So if I go to, like the add preset, you can see this is all SwiftUI, right? Need some optimization here. A lot of this is kind of, as I'm still working through, like these here, a lot of these could be basically several instances of the same view. I haven't done that yet as I sort of, doing it long form to work out exactly what I wanted the app to look like. But I could basically break this down into multiple, one component with multiple instances at the end of the day. That's probably what I'll do. But the goal here is get the MVP, right? Get the minimum viable to ship it. And I'm very close to it now. I need to finish the onboarding screens. And I got this bug that I introduced earlier somehow. And then I've got to do the help page, but that's, other than doing the store page itself, that's pretty much it. So, that's kind of where we're at with this. I'm still not certain that I'm comfortable with this blue background. I wanted a way to differentiate each of the panels. It's okay for now. It's okay for me. As a 1.0 product, yeah, I could live with it. And then, as you've always heard me say, if you've ever listened to the podcast on compileswift.com, get something out there as fast as you can. Start getting data back from users, what they like, what they don't like, suggestions, all those things. The sooner you start getting that stuff, the sooner you can start to make the product what a user wants it to be, not what you think it should be. Now, there should be a happy compromise there, but, like I say, this was built for myself originally, and then I realized, there's other FujiFilm users out there who would probably benefit from this as well. So I am sure it's going to end up probably a few versions from now, a very different product in many ways, certainly features, than it's got right now. One feature I'd love to add in the future, not yet, is the ability to add a sample image. So I could, take a photograph with the camera, with the film settings, store that in the file so that I can see, oh yeah, that's right. When it says sepia or black and white image, that's what it looks like, and it'll just serve to remind me. So that's one thing I've got going on in there. All right. Let's see. Okay, so what I did earlier today, one thing that was bothering me, and I'll let me see if I can find it here in the setting, what I had. Yeah, this was it. So what I didn't like, I'm just going to comment this out. What was bugging me was that, it looks nice on here, but when it was running and when you were swiping through the screens, you'd see this curved corner here with a little white block as you swipe through. And I really just didn't like it. So what I did was made the whole background blue, solid like that. So it's actually the background of the parent view in this case. So as you swipe through, you don't get these weird little white corners in between each of the screen swipes, if that makes sense. So I'm just sort of cleaning that up here. What I think I'd like to do, I was trying to think, before I found this bug, what should I do here today? Well, first thing I got to do is look at this bug. So what's happening is when you enter a preset name and a description, for some reason, in my infinite wisdom, I've somehow broken it. So when you go to save the preset, which is right here, it creates a UUID, unique identifier for the file, gathers up all of these settings, right? And then puts them in a new preset and adds it to the data set that gets stored as a JSON file in the app. Make sense? I went with JSON because it's very straightforward to use, and we're not talking, massive amount of data here. So it looks like what's happened here is this name and this description, for some reason, are not being populated, and I don't think it's got anything to do with this here. I think what it is, somehow up here, I've broken a binding, or the binding is just not working here, because there's the name and the description, which start off as empty strings. You go in, oh yeah, that's right, yeah. So what actually, I can see what I've done. I remember what I did here. I created a component, and this component passes on these values, right? This name and the string. Before, let me show you what they were. Right, they were long form versions right here. Okay, and I took both of them and said, you know what, they're exactly the same, and put them in one component here. And in doing that, it looks like what's happening is it's populating, but it's not feeding back out the information that's being put into the component. So I got to figure this out here. I think what I can do here is I'll show you. Let me go backwards. Let's clear out some of these files. Don't need any of those. I don't need that, but I do want content view, add new preset. So instead of these, what it was, was a a Z stack like this, and then the text would have been, let me think, how did I do this? The text would have been, in this case it would have said preset name, and the value for the text field actually would have been name. Yeah, so let me now run this again, and hopefully I've fixed my bug on the name here, and it's just a case of the way I built the, so my preset, the way I built that sub view component out. Yeah, see, look, it's working fine now. Okay. So what my two options here is I can either go back to the long form version like this, which would be workable, but you know, repetition of code's never a good thing, right? What I really should do is spend some time and fix up this view that I've built. I think what's happening is the binding's one way, right? It's going in, but it's not coming back out again. So I think we should play with that for a little while. Well, actually, you know what? Let's not, for now, let's keep this as it was. Let's get this working again, and then I'm going to finish up what I started earlier with the onboarding screens first, and then we'll come back to this and refactor and fix it. All right, description. And then bind that to the value there. Let's check this, make sure it works. All right, let's go back. Let's get rid of this one, create a new one. My new preset with a cool description. Let's just set some numbers here other than the defaults, save them. Great, it's working again. That is exactly the way it should be. Okay, good. Let's just, my second preset with another description. And then let's just make sure everything's, yep, okay, everything's working good. All right. Okay. Let's go back to the onboarding screens. So I need to add some images here. So we're going to do a little bit of graphic work. And I got some screen caps earlier, but I have not done anything with them yet other than to take some screen caps of the app. Let me load that up there. Okay, so this one, second one is for creating a preset. It's going to tell you to hit the plus icon, enter the settings, and then tap save. All right, let me find the files here. Give me 1 second. I also need to just check something. I will be right back, folks. All right, sorry, and we are back. Let's go into our assets here. And we've got a bunch of colors that I've got in here, but what I want to do is I'm going to bring some images in here, I think. Let me go find 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is what I want. We'll bring in, these are the screenshots. Let's make a new image set from these. No, sorry. Let's get rid of that. Okay. I'm going to rename these. So this one is going to be preset entry. Okay, new preset entry. The empty preset list, we're going to call that empty preset list. I just want to remove the spaces, make this easy on myself. Let's start with those. Okay, so the first screen, I'm going to want to include an image here. Let's see if I can remember the shortcut. Image. And edit preset, new preset entry. Nope, I want the empty preset list for this one for now. This one's kind of going to be a little bit of a placeholder for later on. I don't want it there. I want it after that there. Okay, that is a little big, right? All right. Give me 1 second to check the chat room here. I see a message. I just want to make sure I respond. Let me try and organize my desktop a little here, a little better, because I'm doing a terrible job at answering questions. All right. Thank you, Nicholas. All right, I want to respond to that question there. Give me 1 second, folks. It's not coming through on my chat window here. So I'm going to pull up Safari here. Give me 1 second. I will be right back, and I will get to answering your question. All right, I am back. Sorry, Ben, let me get your question here. I'm not at all familiar with coding. I stumbled upon this show because I'm an Apple fan and don't know anything about building apps or coding. Hey, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us. If you like to see how these, Apple apps and everything work in the background, then you come to the right place, buddy, because we dive into it here big time. So thank you. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask, and I will do my best to answer them for you. Always messing around with lots of Apple related stuff. We're doing an app here on the iOS, as you can see this week. If you are, if you don't know anything about building apps, but you want to get into it, I'm happy to answer your questions as well. Or if you're just curious how something works, or even if you're just having a problem with your phone, I'm always going to be happy to try and help with that as well. So welcome. Thank you for dropping by, Ben. Appreciate it. Hope you're having a good weekend. You're very intrigued. Excellent. That is a good start. That is a fantastic start. I think that's how I got into it. I have a background originally in web development, and then I thought, you know what? I need some apps to do some things. And I thought, well, I'll just make my own. And that's how I got into it all that time ago. So it's always, hey, just being intrigued about the things that you use is cool, right? So yeah, feel free, or go to, also if you go to one of my websites, it's compileswift.com, and you'll find a bunch of stuff there. But I am always happy to try and help and share whatever I know with anyone who's interested. So please feel free to ask away. All right, so is a MacBook Pro 2013 good for app building? And I don't own an iPhone. I might go to iPhone 12 soon. Yeah, that is perfectly fine. For the longest time, I had, let me think, I had a MacBook Air, which wasn't the original one. I want to say it was maybe, 20, I got to think, it was way back, 2012, something like that. But I know that I had a MacBook Pro from 2011, if I remember rightly, and they're fine. I mean, obviously it's not going to be the fastest thing in the world, but that doesn't matter, right? I'm always telling people, if start with what you've got, as long as you can download and run Xcode, which I got to think the MacBook Pro 2013. Do you happen to know what version of the operating system you're on? Because that may come into play. But if you can get Xcode running on your machine, then that is all you need to get started. You can use the simulator to learn development. That is no problem at all. You do not have to have stuff running on a device when you are learning early on. I certainly didn't, and just because it was a bit of a hassle back then. But you can use the simulators and it'll run just fine. Like I say, if you can get Xcode to run on your machine, depends what OS you've got, but if you can download and run Xcode for free from the App Store, you're good to go. You've got a paid account too. Okay, fantastic. If you've got the paid account, that will let you run on devices when you get your device, no problem. But if you can get apps, say Xcode from the App Store and run it on your machine, then that is all you need to get started. That and just, playing with it, basically sit and play with it. You can, of course, use the Swift Playgrounds application, which is also on a Mac now, and that's another good one. In fact, the version that's coming out later in the year, as Apple showed us earlier in the year, you can actually build and ship applications from Swift Playgrounds on your iPad, for example. I don't know about that personally, but you can do it. So let me know. If you can get Xcode running, then you are good to go, buddy. All right. Now, so we've got our image here, but the image is a little on the large side, right? So let's change that. What we're going to do is I'm going to put a modifier in here, a frame, and I'm going to put a width and a height. So I got to think about this now. Have I ever I'm trying to think if I've ever actually used the image setting in. Actually, you know what? Let's take that off there. I don't think I've ever actually put an image yet in SwiftUI. Let's see. Ben says, I've struggled to find decent how-to series on YouTube, and I do own an iPad. Okay, great. So, I mean, there's lots of material out there. There is a guy by the name of Paul Hudson who has hackingwithswift.com, and he's got fantastic content. You know, I have my own series, a whole bunch of content on compileswift.com as well. And I'm trying to recall, I do have a series of videos where if I remember rightly, I started from a nothing application. Let me have a look here. But Hacking with Swift is a fantastic resource. Now, let me pull up. I got to think here. I got to go to my YouTube channel. Hang on. Actually, no. If I go to my website, let me see if I can find you a decent link. Hang on. And if you go to the videos, there's a whole ton of videos, but you will find that some of the older ones, actually, if you go to, even better, if you just go to youtube.com using my old nickname here. So if you go to youtube.com, you know, basically /Peter Wood, right, you're going to find a whole bunch. One good one here that I've got is this list here, right, with some basic stuff. But if you go down here, this is a series I did with some SwiftUI things where we start from scratch and build out something very similar to the app that I've got here and some others. But so you can do that, right? The other one, like I said, if you go to Hacking with Swift, Paul Hudson's work is fantastic, and he has a ton of stuff on there. So definitely got to give that a look as well. Hopefully those two resources will help you out there. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Paul has a bunch of stuff that takes you from the beginning to the end. A lot of mine tends to be solving particular problems, but with that said, only too happy to help folks out as well. So you can always drop me a line, compileswift.com. There's a contact form on there as well. And of course, you can come to the stream. If there's enough interests, I would more than happily do a stream series where we go from nothing to building some kind of app to give you a run through some kind of basics. Do you have any particular idea of, oh, sorry, you're using Big Sur, so you're good to go. You can pull down the current version of Xcode from the store and you'd be fine. Do you have an idea for an app that you want to build at all? That's always a good place to start. Or, there's lots of kind of good apps that are ways to get into basic things like this one, where there's basically it shows a list of things. You enter some data, it shows you that data, you can edit the data, delete it, and so on. It's kind of a very, you see that in so many apps. And if you think about it, a lot of apps do that. That's basically what it is. It's a glorified entry recording system and editing. So, if there's interest in that, I would be only too happy for us to work through a series of streams where we just, build one app, something like that. Okay, so we've got this image here, and it's fair to say at the moment it is not quite what we wanted. The size is a little on the large side, and I got to think here how we do this, because I don't recall ever bringing an image in before. So let's try this. Let's start. See the frame of 100, height of 100, and the alignment. You can see there's the frame, but the image is going to be way outside that frame, right? And I'm trying to remember here. Let's see. Well, I've thought of making a web-based cheat code app for video games. I don't know if that'll be a viable app. Sure, right? I mean, here's my opinion, and this is just my opinion. I think anything is a viable app if somebody wants it, right? If like this app that I'm building here, millions of people are, this is not going to be the audience for this app. But for those people that own this same camera that I do and want to record their settings, it only needs me and one other person who needs it or uses it to then say, hey, it's a viable app, right? I will say, like the app I've got here and there, it's not like I'm going to retire on this app. This was to solve a problem that I had. And if it solves the problem for one other person, then to me, that's a viable app, right? Now, I will say, though, I think you're in a good market with that idea because we all know how huge gaming is, right? And so something to record your, whatever you want to call them, cheats, things like that, or notes or whatever. Yeah. I mean, I'll give you an example, right? Without getting too off topic, but I'm a big Destiny fan. Played Destiny 1 since it first came out. Still playing Destiny 2 today. And when I'm playing, because I, have to remember things, I got a notepad and a pen next to me for a lot of stuff still. So if you have an app that lists cheat codes and stuff like that, yeah, I think you're onto something. Yeah, I like video games, as I know people, especially my friends online and local, and I want to provide them easy access to codes for them. Perfect. So there you go, right? You've met the criteria. You've identified the product, and you've got some folks that are going to use it, including yourself. There you go. Go do it, right? I would suggest that hey, get on with it. Set your level of expectation reasonable, right? If you've not done this before, expect to hit some problems along the way, but here's the beauty of this. The development platform, Apple's development platforms and the communities around them, especially like Swift and things like that, it's just full of phenomenally fantastic people. I know so many wonderful people, and I'm sure that some of the other folks in the chat rooms here would say the same thing, right? There are such an enormous amount of resources out there, wonderful people who are willing to help you. People drop by my chat here all the time and help me out with problems, and I greatly appreciate it because we're all discovering this together. It doesn't matter how long you've been doing this, right? I do this professionally, right? My day job is mobile apps, but there is so much I don't know that I am eternally grateful when people drop by the chat and help me. And there are so many good communities out there that you're blessed. I think we're truly blessed to have so many people willing to help us. So I think you're onto a good idea. Sketch out some ideas, things like that. Run it by some people maybe, and then go for it. Just go for it and learn over time, and most importantly, have fun with it. Having fun while you're doing these things is the key. Folks like Nicholas, for example, if you're still in the chat room, Nicholas, he'll tell you, I've made so many mistakes of silly things on this stream, but we just have fun with it. Hey, Coco Type is another one, right? He's got an excellent stream who just dropped in the chat room. And folks watching my stream who've seen it before, they'll tell you, Ben, Coco Type has solved so many little weird problems for me as we've been working on this stuff. So yeah, yep, as Nicholas says, it's about having fun, right? If you're not enjoying it, you're doing the wrong thing. Hey, Coco Type, I hope you're having a good weekend, buddy. And if anybody has any other suggestions for Ben for good resources for learning, please put them in the chat room and share them for everybody. That's what it's all about. Part of the reason I do this stream is so that we can all just get together, hang out, and share the knowledge with each other, right? So please go with it. All right, so the problem I've got here with this image, as you can see, is the frame is 100, the image isn't. And I got to be honest, I have not played with images in SwiftUI, so this is kind of a little bit new to me. I gotta try and figure this out here, what's going on. So I'm wondering actually if maybe if I do this, what if I say the image is resizable? Okay, that's better. So it's resized into the space, but you can see we've lost our proportions, right? The width and the height is just completely screwy. But at least I've got an image in there for now. So I think, is there an aspect ratio? Yeah. Let's see which one we want here. So I don't think we want fill. I think so that must be the, okay, so that's the default. Aspect ratio to fit. Okay, that at least looks better. All right, what have we got here? Coco Type. If you didn't recommend Paul Hudson's 100-Day series, that's where I always start recommendation-wise. Good call. Yeah, I did recommend Paul Hudson's Hacking with Swift because, you know, who wouldn't, right? Fantastic resource. He does have a 100-day series, which I have not looked at, but everybody loves it. So yeah, the 100-day series is a good one. Thanks, Coco Type. But everything on Hacking with Swift is just fantastic. Not sponsored by him or anything like that. Just I own a bunch of his books, and he's just a fantastic resource and just a great person as well. And he's in my home country, England, so there you go, which is where I'm not now. But all right, so let's go ahead and run this. I want to see how this looks here. And thank you, everybody. We got a bunch of viewers out there. I appreciate it. I appreciate all of you watching. It really just, you know, I love doing this for you all. It's a lot of fun, and thank you for everybody who takes part in the chat room and everything else. It really is something I look forward to on Sunday nights. Okay, I'm going to hit my oh my god button to to bring back my onboarding screen here. I guess that's proportionally correct. I think it is. I don't know. Actually, it looks a little taller than it does. It is wider, but it's there, right? We've got one image. Let's move on to the next one. Even if I just get the basic images in here today, it's a start. Oh, Kentucky. Very nice. Nice. Yeah, I'm way down here in Texas. Not the Texas accent. I'm sure you probably spotted. But yeah, I'm down here in not quite so hot Texas today. All right. Let's see. So on the next one, on the next screen here, this one is, so to create a new preset, tap the plus icon, enter the settings, and tap save. All right, let's go to our library. So the one I'm looking for here, is it going to let me make the image bigger? Maybe not. Nope. It's a shame you can't hit space for quick view and get a bigger view of the image. But okay, tap the plus icon, enter the settings, and tap save. So I believe this is the one we want. I'm just going to bring it in, and then there it is. It's going to mess me up again. So we're going to put that there, put that in there, and you know what? I'm just going to, hey, it's okay to copy and paste my own code, right? I found the Hacking with iOS playlist. Fantastic. Yeah. All right. I've definitely got some layout issues I'll have to fix here, but I just want to get the basic images in for now. All right. On this one, editing a preset. CocoType says, file feedback on the quick look idea. Yeah. You know what? I should. Thank you. I haven't checked the Xcode, too many, Xcode 13 to see if it's in there, but I can't imagine it is. This is, I'm using the shipping version of Xcode at the moment. This isn't the Xcode 13 preview or anything like that. All right, what I'm going to do, I'm going to take that and I'm going to put that on the third screen here, sorry, for editing the preset. But I do need to go back here to my assets and rename this one. I think you can see now why I'm doing the naming like this, right? Because if I say edit preset, what did I call it? Oh yeah, edit preset entry. If I do it like this with no spaces, then in code, I can just use that name right here and it's going to work, right? Edit preset entry. So that's, in case you're wondering, that's why I'm naming them like that up in the assets there. So that's the third one. For the fourth one, for the fourth one is deleting a preset. So let's go back over here to my assets. I think it's in here somewhere. Shout if you see it. Empty. Delete to swipe. There you go. That's the one. Okay. Swipe, delete, preset. I'm going to call that one. And let's go back over here. So I'm looking for that text. There's a spacer there. I'm going to put it here. Swipe, delete, preset. Is that what I called it? I think that's what I called it. Okay, what I'm going to do, just so you know, because for those of you catching up who may have just joined us or didn't catch it at the beginning, these are the onboarding screens, and I took these screenshots earlier from the app running on my device. I haven't had a chance yet to work them over. What I'm going to do is going to make it more fancy, right? You know, I'm going to make them, you've seen it, right? You know, you sort of turn it at 45 degrees, make it look a little more fancy and a little better than it's looking just right here. But I was short on time before starting the stream today. So once I got the screen caps, I just wanted to, okay, let's get them in place in here, and then I'll update them. Again, you know, this is my approach to things. This is the approach I recommend to people is if you can, you know, go for the, get the minimal amount of everything that you need in there to get everything working, laid out correctly, everything else. And from there, start to evaluate, okay, what do I really need to do for this, for the shipping version? So let's go ahead and run this now. And, you know, I got to make myself a note. I must remember to file that feedback. Okay. So we go in and it's like, hey, it's the app for blah, blah, blah. All right. Creating a preset, you hit the plus. Oh, look, I got a typo there. You hit the plus and then you enter the settings. Again, I'm going to make this bigger. I'm pointing at my screen like you can see me pointing at my screen. You enter the settings and you tap save. If you want to edit a preset, you tap it in the view and then click on the pencil and tap update. I'm probably going to have two screens on this because I do have one with the pencil up in the corner. And then you tap update to save your changes. To delete a preset, swipe from right to left on the preset you want to remove. Again, I got to fix all the spacing, make the layout nicer on here, much more designery, if that's a word. I'm sure it's not. But we got the screens, and then you hit start and get in the app. So to show you what I was talking about, by the way, since I've now gone through that list once, if I run it again here, you will now see that, actually I did that wrong, sorry, start, because it wipes out the app. Let me close the app, go back into it, and now when it loads up the second time, because I've completed the onboarding screens, I don't see them again, unless I use my super secret button here that won't exist, obviously, in the shipping version. It's just there for me to reset it, okay? And then again, you hit the plus. Like I say, if I do this, right? And then when you do that, you can see I need to get a screen cap here where you hit the pencil to go in and edit it, you update it, and so on. All right, I think you get the idea. Excellent. So we've got our basic screen caps in there. All right. Before we go any further, we're going to commit this change because just in case I mess something up. In case you don't know, just hit the Alt, Command, and C will bring up your commit window. Here is how I did that. So I added the basic screenshots to the onboarding screens. All right, push it to my remote, commit. So now, commit regular, right? If I screw up, hey, at least I can go backwards. Not that ever happens, right? We would never do anything silly like that. Everything we do works perfectly because, yeah. All right, beautiful. Okay, so good. We got that done. And not bad, right? So within 50 minutes, I got that done, and I got we've had a bunch of really good conversation today, so that's awesome. Love the conversation. All right. Anyone have any questions, please feel free to post them. So I've got that. Now, going back to my other problem that I had here is what I did here where I basically messed this up, right? So I've put back in the long form versions of these, which need to be fixed up because the component is not working right. The component that I built, which is kind of this universal component, it's taking the entry and everything working great, but it's not, when I save the data, it's not pulling out the value from here. And I think what it is a disconnect, right? I've got this state in here, and what the problem is, I think, if I go to the add new preset, gotta find it here. Okay, is, we got these bindings of name and description, which are being sent into that sub view. I never know whether I should call them sub views or components. Let me know which one you think it should be. But the problem is that they're going in, but it's, like I say, it's not coming out. It's getting, there's no, we're setting the state, but it's not bound in any way. There's no binding back to the data in this view, if that makes sense. It works when I've got the long form like this because we're sitting in the same scope, right? So the binding works. But code repetition is not a good thing. And these two are identical here other than the label name and the value that goes in. That's why I made that one to begin with. All right, boy, I got a dry throat today. Okay, so that's a, this is one of those things where, a lot of developers would give you a hard time, and like my fellow developers that I work with and that, they would make fun, in a nice way. I mean, not in a serious way, but we'd be like, oh, look, you're an idiot, you're repeating this code. But at the end of the day, it can ship like this, right? The code is functional. It's not the most elegant in the world. And, this is one of those things where, we all encountered this. You may not write necessarily the most elegant code in the world, and you know that it isn't, but you need to ship something. And if it's functional and it works, you got to ask yourself, okay, only I know, or maybe my team knows, when they look at the source code, yeah, he's not done that the best way in the world, but it's not the end of the world. I mean, as long as it works, right? So I'm not one of those purists where it's like, you must never, ever repeat code, because if you work on a project long enough, eventually at some point, the idealism of the beautifully laid out code, you have to let it go, especially if you're working with a team. Even if you all agree, oh, we're going to, this is how we're going to do it. There will come that day that you will need to do an emergency patch and get it out into production. And that emergency patch means we don't care how the code looks. We need it to work right and fix the patch. All right. So I want to make that clear. I don't think that this repetition is great, but for a 1.0 product, for these 2 fields right here, I can live with it. If it means that it gets me closer to my planned shipping date, that's fine. I can come back in the next release, in a patch release, whatever, and refactor these. Hey, I'd love to hear everybody's thoughts on this in the chat room. It's kind of one of those arguments along the lines of the spaces and the tab thing, but whatever. You have to ship. At the end of the day, an app is, in my view, only as good as when it's shipped. Okay, only fellow develop. Yeah, see, Nicholas says if it works, ship it. Thank you, Nicholas. I agree. We can appreciate as developers when we're looking at the code the beauty of the code. But are you looking to ship products or just impress your friends? That's kind of what it comes down to, right? If you can do both, fantastic. But shipping is number one for sure. All right, now this actually is basically everything that's on my list to say that it's a shippable product, even if I don't necessarily like all the screens. I'm not going to ship it just yet because this is my own personal project. I can take as long as I want on this, and I do want to make the landing screens, those onboarding screens, better, because there's 2 reasons. One, I think they can look better, and 2, I want to learn how to make them better. Whoops, tapping the mic. I want to learn how to make them better, right? I'm very much learning SwiftUI as much as, well, maybe even more than some folks, because I have to use storyboards and Objective-C during the day, believe it or not. Let's see, what does Coco Type says, know that you're doing it, though, and don't hit the point where you let those piles of hacks build up and then you can't ship an iOS 15 version because you're stuck behind a bunch of quick patches to support the iPhone X. A very good point. He makes a very good point there. Don't do it and forget about it. And certainly, the technical debt, as we call it, on that side, Coco Type's absolutely right. There's a point at which it's a manageable load, and there's a point at which that I've left that code too long and I didn't go back to it. Or look, there's 6 months from now, we need to ship this feature, and we need to fix that code before we can do the feature and ship it. That's where your planning comes in, right? Plan interim releases to fix that code or refine it before the next feature, something along those lines. Always a very delicate balance. That, I think, is where, when I'm working with developers, what we like to do, and as someone who oversees the apps and is responsible for them, I like to ship and then fit in a Scrum sprint, which is like a 2-week thing, where we say, okay, now we're going to go back and fix up the things we know we need to do before we do the next thing. Doesn't always happen, but Coco Type's absolutely right. You must not leave it too long, and certainly don't forget about it. For me, I have boards with, tickets on. For those of you familiar with the Scrum process, in an Agile, I got all those sort of Jira type tickets and everything else. I have a Trello board for this, actually. Let me see if I can spell Trello. Again, this is only me working on my own personal app, but I have not worked on this app in a while. And so, there were some things I didn't remember. So as you look at this here, right, you can see that I'm working on the onboarding screens here. Everything with the green is, let me click on one, I'll show you. I've identified as the version 1.0, right? So I've got some other stuff over here that is not necessary for version 1.0, but this is the one remaining that I have yet to start, which is to make a web page with that the app would link to, that will have any related help documentation, videos showing you how to use it, those kind of things. But you can see, look, right, I've got, the onboarding screens is the one that I'm working on today. We've got this one. Right now, that's the only two remaining things. You could argue, of course, that this one here should be 1.0 because that's the store listing page. But it's very close, very, very close. Coco Type says, yeah, this is the problem we're running into now. We did a quick fix to support the notch. Oh my gosh. I think we could all spend days talking about what's your notch nightmare, right? And then they never got the bugs fixed, prioritized to clean up afterwards. And now we're running into issues. 4 years later? Gosh, we had the notch that long. But on the other hand, we didn't have any problem with it for those 4 years. Yeah, you know what? You bring up another interesting scenario. What if it's something that it's like, okay, it's not been a problem for the users, but it's a problem for us, right? That's always tricky because, the order in my mind is always respond to the user's problems first or requested changes from the users, and then the internal what we would like to take care of list as well. Both of which, by the way, if you work for a company, or your contractor for someone or something, may not be their priorities, and that adds another layer of complexity. But always, always, always try to keep or go back and clean up things wherever you can. Even better if you can negotiate a couple of weeks of, or you've got enough team members, for example, where you can say, okay, guess what? Some folks are going to work on new features. Some folks are going to work on the bugs. Next time we flip it around the other way so that everybody gets to play with the new stuff and everybody has to fix bugs, right? It's very difficult. When you are a solo developer or working, just on a project by yourself, it gets very difficult because you can afford to say to yourself, I'm not going to bother with this. And no one's there to stop you from taking that attitude with it. So you have to kind of be responsible to yourself. You gotta own the problem and admit to it and still fix it, even though there's no one but you to hold yourself accountable, which is tricky too. Talking about the notch problem, it's funny. I was using an app the other day. Actually, you know what? I noticed this too on Trello. You can't see it here, but I noticed earlier on some of the stuff was coming up behind here, right? So there's even this new problem on the Mac, which is going to be this title bar notch problem, But yeah, the notch, even though the apps, and when you're working in Xcode, they're supposed to provide you this safe zone, because you can go behind that notch, basically, right? Behind that area at the top. Something I've never been a big fan of. I think that personally that top area with the notch should be sacred, and apps should not be allowed to go into that zone. Just like when you scroll and, sort of transparently behind it. I'm not a big fan of that, but you have to go out of your way to stop it from doing it, which is a bit weird. But I don't know. I haven't checked that in iOS 15, but I got to believe it's probably the same. Let me know if you know the answer. So yeah, a little bit of project management thing there, but these things are important, right? Okay, so I think we've reached the point here where I'm tempted to leave this alone, work those images for the onboarding screens, make that better, and then I've got to force myself to make a final decision about this blue, because I don't know. I think I gotta check this myself. I think I have dark mode support in here in the app. Let me check. If I remember rightly, I think I have already done this. Yeah, okay, so dark mode. Yeah, see, this is okay for dark mode. Now, part of the reason for my thinking behind this as well is, especially in the dark mode version, was, you know, photography apps and photography, it's all about shades of light, right? And so, as a huge black and white photo fan from like my first photo when I was a teenager, maybe even before that, that's how long I've been taking pictures. Uh, I wanted to keep that kind of monochrome feel to it. And also, the other thinking is, if I'm out taking photographs, which is what this app is really for, is to store these presets and access them while I'm out and about. If I'm doing photography at night or in a low lit room or something like that, I don't want to get the interface of this app to hit me in the face like a bright light. So I wanted to keep it very dark, very tonal. All right. So that's my thinking behind what I've done here on this. Like, for example, if let me show you, even the list, right? Description, save it. See, I just wanted it to be, okay, I can use it, but I'm not going to be bothering. It's not going to blast my eyes in the face if I'm photographing at night or in a dark room, something like that. And it's also not going to blast light out for anybody that's around me, right? It's kind of hard to explain, but you got to sort of look at it from a photographer's mindset, which is, if my eyes have adjusted to the situation I'm photographing in, but I need to change the settings on my camera that I've got stored in this app, I don't need to suddenly be blasted with light and my eyes adjust, and now I got to wait for them to adjust back so that I can continue taking photographs. That's my thinking behind this. All right. So that's where the dark mode comes in. Of course, in normal operation during the day, outside, whatever, this is fine. So just wanted to explain where those colors and that came from. All right, let's see, what else do we have here? I think this is going to be good. So let's go back to the content view here. Not sure about this green behind here yet either. And I'm going to drop this out at the very last moment. Or I may even put it behind a flag that's like, if I'm in develop mode, show this. Just so it's there for the future, for me to be able to toggle the switch quickly on those. Other than that, I think we're looking pretty good, right? I'm going to go with, let me find it here. Again, this was the thinking I wanted to explain behind the icon, is this kind of gray with these tonal separations here. It's kind of a bit of a tip of the hat to photographers and photography in general, where it's all, like I say, shades, zones of gray, right? It's kind of one of those things of photographers would get it. It's not a joke, but photographers would get it, right? So that's that on this app. I'm trying to think if there was anything else I wanted to do today that I haven't done already. Oh, I did want to show you something here. Let me pop this up. Earlier in the week, I found a repo called Code Editor, right? And I wanted to show you this here because I'm going to resurrect an old app that I had, which, if you're still out in there watching, is one where I went through from basically nothing in my videos and my tutorials, from nothing to creating it, and the source code is publicly available. It's an app called Code Notes, and the idea was that when you're taking notes on code, I wanted an app on my iPad to store it and everything else. The problem was that I hit this issue where I could put it in Markdown, the notes in Markdown, but I couldn't get never really found a good solution for the color syntax highlighting, which is pretty important for a code note application, right? Well, this code editor is a library that I found here, right? That and again, you can find it. It's a Swift package. You can just search for code editor, literally. And I did a test with this. Let me run it here. I did a very quick test earlier in the week, and I'm now thinking that I want to include this in my app. This is a Mac app that I've got it on here, but you can use this package anywhere. We'll just wait for it to fire it up. And it does a good job, right? So this is, you can see, look, I've just told it, I've given it a string, but it's highlighting the text with the colors and everything else that you'd expect to see. Let me show you. It's very little code behind this. And this is an awesome package. So you just give it a string, right? And then it's going to take that string. You tell it what language you want it to be rendered out into, and a theme, right? Which again, if you're a coder, you've probably come across this before, right? Most IDEs have themes. It's kind of built on that. You can give it the language. It has a bunch of built-in ones already, as you can see. You know, a whole ton of them in there. But, you know, for this, I wanted Swift. So in my app, where you would type the note and you would specify the language, that language would be piped in here so that the syntaxing would be appropriate. But I wanted to mention this library because it uses the highlighter for here, which is the, you know, kind of a standard one on the web for code syntax. But this code editor is a nice SwiftUI one that basically you can implement it in one line and you're good to go. And I just thought that was fantastic. All right, folks, let's see. It is getting late here, 10:20 p.m. my time. I think I'm going to wrap it there for the day. I hate to wrap it when there's so many people watching. Sorry about that, but it's now, what, coming up for about an hour, 15 minutes, something like that. I've achieved all the goals I wanted to get here in this one. If there is anything you would love to see me try and cover in the stream, please let me know. Just go to compileswift.com /contact and let me know, and I'll see what I can do, right? I'm not saying that I can, you know, I don't have the answers to everything, but I'd love to be able to give back to someone if there's something that they're specifically interested in, or something you'd like me to go over in one of my apps that I'm building here. There's a lot of code in there, obviously, as well. Let me know, and I'm happy to cover it. I also have a podcast that goes out, you know, at this time. I'm publishing it in the middle of the week now, since I'm doing the streams on Sunday, but you can go there, find that at compileswift.com /podcast, and you can subscribe there, follow, whatever they want to call it, in your podcast app of choice. And with that, you know, I think we've covered it in this one. To all of you out there watching, I think this is, you know, I've got more viewers on this time around than I have before. So to each of the viewers, everybody contributing in the chat rooms, thank you so much. You all make this so worthwhile. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate all the questions. Ben, I hope that you get where you want to be with this. Again, let me know. You know, everybody else, give Coco Type a hard time, by the way. Tell him to get his stream back on. But thank you so much for watching, and we'll do this again next week. I look forward to doing this with you all. It is so much fun because the questions you get spur on ideas that I hadn't thought of, and I like to give back and share my code and everything else. So with that, have a wonderful week, and I will see you in the next one. Take care, folks. Thank you so much. See you soon.